I'm now honored to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Jeffrey Brown. Jeff Brown is the founder, president, and CEO of Brown's Superstores Incorporated, an 11-store supermarket chain trading under the ShopRite banner. He is also the founder and chairman of Uplift Solutions, a national nonprofit organization that supports food businesses, government, and nonprofits to create sustainable environments for underserved communities. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Jeffrey Brown.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk about a few things today, Dan, very inspiring. I don't think poverty is natural. And what's interesting, we have a marvelous system of capitalism that's magnificent and the world copies it, but it's not 100% perfect. And it does break down, and one of the symptoms is poverty, and poverty tends to have a cycle of creating more symptoms. So the reason I bring that up as context is a lot of my business was built around that circumstance, a breakdown or failure of markets, and what we did to overcome that. So if you see on the screen, there's a picture of a very large picture of a mural in one of our stores in Philadelphia. I want to say it's 250 feet long. And I bring the mural up because one of the things we learned to do, first thing, we go talk to the community. Generally speaking, most of our stores got developed because a community organization called us and asked to come talk to them. And we would go talk to them and we'd get to meet them, and that would start the process of understanding what's going on. And we have continued that process in town hall style meetings. And in those meetings, we learn everything we need to know. We learn through observation the ethnic mix of the neighborhood. We learn their religion. We learn where their families immigrated from. And as we're learning that, we're thinking about what does that mean for serving them. And each of our stores have been customized to serve the community we're in. If I could give you some examples. All right. So in the far left is our halal meat department. What we had come to learn was in one of our stores, and I noticed that the women with head coverings weren't buying our meat. And I asked them, why aren't you buying our meat? And they said, we're Muslim, we have dietary guidelines, halal, and we can't buy meat from you. And I said, where do you get it from? And they said, it's very difficult. So we decided in neighborhoods where there was a heavy Muslim population, we would have two meat rooms. Our standard meat room, and we'd have a second meat room for our Muslim customers. And anyway, what's interesting about it, in my way of thinking, I'm a retailer, my job is to serve the people that live in the neighborhoods where my stores are, and it really doesn't matter where they come from, what their religion is, it's my job to serve them. Not serving them will be a failure for the community. It would also be a failure for me. Because when you don't sell a big part of your business, that's lost revenues, it's lost profit. And when you disenfranchise a big part of the population, it all adds to business failure. And one of the failings of inner city supermarkets is that they fail to serve their customers. Another example, which again is a combination of business and concern for my customers, I noticed a lot of my customers would buy their chicken fried. And we know that fried chicken, that's not a very good staple. And I don't really like telling people what to do. I don't think that's a good way to change anything. I know whenever my wife tells me not to eat dessert, I sneak too. So I figured that's not a good way to change eating behavior. But I was in Texas once in a Latin store, and I saw them with butter flying and grilling whole chickens on the sales floor. And I was mesmerized by the sparkling and the steam and the smell. And I thought that that would be interesting for my customers. And we've opened, I think, our 4th fire-grilled chicken department. You could see the picture over there. And it's nice. It's interesting. And people come and stare at the chickens. And I do, too. They're crackling, and they buy the chickens. And today, most of the prepared chickens we sell are grilled. And fried chicken has become a much smaller part of our business, and I didn't tell anyone what to do. I made the proposition such that it made sense for my customers to make the change. And the final thing is produce. A lot of people tell me that people of little means need to be educated on fresh fruits and vegetables. And when we started building these stores and we started developing our produce merchandising, I often would look at Whole Foods for their merchandising. And people would tell me that I'm off on that. But what's interesting is we're all human and we're all attracted to fresh quality product. And if it's merchandised with care, it attracts us even more. Today, our inner city stores do exactly the same produce volume as our suburban stores without any education. Most people that are of modest means in this country came from places that all they had was fresh food. They ate fish, they ate fruits and vegetables. They didn't have any processed foods. We taught them how to eat processed foods. And unfortunately, the lack of access in many cities has forced them to have a diet of all processed foods, which is a great part of our obesity problem. And so if you think back to the fire-grilled chicken, I'm not sure education, it's not bad, but I don't think it's going to move things the way we want. Make the offering compelling, and that will move us to where we want to go. So while I was in the stores and talking to my customers, we have pharmacies in most stores, I was standing at the pharmacy, and one customer after the other would say to my pharmacist, "Doc, my kid's sick, what do I do?" Or "My aunt's sick," or "My husband's sick." And I asked my pharmacist, "Why do they call you doc? You're not a doctor." And they said, "Because there's no doctor offices in a lot of the urban pockets. Apparently, it's very difficult to make a living as a doctor when your clients are either have no insurance or are on Medicaid." And so it led to a couple thoughts. And one was the founding of our nonprofit. One of the things I thought is that no business could invest to the degree necessary to incubate these ideas. And one of their first incubations was a clinic that we brand Q-Care. And we work generally with federally qualified healthcare centers. We partner with them to develop in-store clinics in grocery stores. And today, these things are pretty busy. You often have a line at these clinics, and they're not losing money. They're not making a lot of money, but they're not losing money, and people have access to health care. And the person that's profited the most is the society and government, because all those people would end up in emergency rooms prior to this kind of operation. The average emergency room visit is like $600 that would either go unpaid and would have to be funded somehow through the government. And the average visit at our Q-Care, if you have no insurance and no means, is $20, and it goes to a high of, I think, $55. So again, every visitor to the clinic saves the government quite a bit of money. So this is just a good innovation. The next thing we noticed is a lot of our customers were wasting their money on predatory financial services. And we had looked to find a partner to help fix this. And finally, we found this credit union, and we learned about credit unions. They could do things that are harder to do than a bank could do. And we started opening up American Heritage Federal Credit Unions in our stores. I want to say we have 5 or 6 today. And the proposition is that everyone can have an account. It doesn't need to have a balance in the account. You don't pay a monthly fee. You could use the ATM without a fee. And all their services are non-predatory. They're market-based pricing on all their mortgages and car loans. And they run classes for us on financial literacy to teach our customers the best way to manage their money. And they're not losing money, and they're busy. Before I got here yesterday, I was in one of our stores, and there were lines. I was at 2 stores, and both stores had lines at the American Credit Union, American Heritage Federal Credit Union. And when I talked to their CEO, he complains a lot. But besides that, they're not losing money. And they're possibly making a little bit of money, and he wouldn't have opened 5 branches if it was losing money. And I think the lesson in all this is that the entrepreneurship that you're celebrating here today, that Community First Fund has lent money to encourage, it is the way to solve our problems, because it takes someone like me to sit with several hundred people, a lot different than me, and really listen to them like it makes a difference. And really think about, how can I solve the problem that I've just learned about? How can I make this work somehow? I know that I just can't give all my money away because I'll be broke soon. And I think there are lots of ways to do it. And what's interesting, a CDFI really gave us our first big loan to open our first inner city store. It was TRF out of Philadelphia. Today we have 11 stores in the Philadelphia area and are going to do close to $500 million in sales. And we're the leading supermarket in Philadelphia. And when we started to discuss how could we fix Philadelphia's problems of not having access to food, I was with every grocer, every main grocer in the state. And one by one, every grocer told me how it was an intractable problem that had no solution, that they've had years of experience failing at this work, and that the best thing you could do, young man, is just quietly leave and don't give anyone your card. And of course, I don't like being told what to do, so I decided I'm going to work to try to fix this problem. The solution to this problem hasn't been all my creative entrepreneurial ways. It's been more than half partnering with the public. We have partnered with the city of Philadelphia. We have especially partnered with the state and the federal government and a series of nonprofits to make this work. We have learned how to do some pretty sophisticated financing systems to bring down our costs to offset the gap that inherently exists in serving a lower income community. And that partnership has almost turned into a system. And it's resulted in efforts all around the country to try to replicate what we do, which is happening. So in a meeting like this, with some mayors, they would say to me, can you come to Denver, Colorado? And I said, no, I'm a small entrepreneur, I really can't do that. And some of them, they would yell at me. And I'm trying to help them by sharing what I learned, and they're upset that I can't help them. And eventually I started Uplift Solutions, a nonprofit. Our intention is to take experts that develop their expertise with us and give them a chance to give back by working at Uplift, and to go around the country and help cities and states, nonprofits and grocers figure this out. And today I want to say we've worked in 35 or 40 states on projects and programs, and supermarkets are opening around the country. One of the ones that's been a miraculous success is in the city of Detroit. Myers, a regional supermarket chain, opened a gigantic supermarket in the city of Detroit, and they're a very successful company, and their Detroit supermarket, I believe, is more successful than their average supermarket. That's an example of a real big one. A lot of the work we do is with very small entrepreneurs that have difficulty managing the differences, the complexity of going from a smaller store to a bigger store. And we've worked with them to teach them some basic stuff, human resources, hiring, finance, quality control, shrink control, and we've worked on financing. And we start out sharing what we know about the pro forma, and we engineer a success in the same way that Community First is doing with all of their clients. And that's what makes CDFIs and Community First the right type of organization to fix this problem, because when I wanted to open the first food desert store, and I took my bankers there from a bank that doesn't exist anymore, and I drove them around an impoverished inner city neighborhood with burnt out houses and boarded up houses and whatnot, they didn't run to write up the commitment letter. And DRF did. And that's the difference. And it's not I don't fault the banks, because I get it. And that's why we need CDFIs, and Community First is an example of one that did a great job. Matter of fact, it's true that I did meet with the Lancaster Food Company, and I love their products. If you didn't try the bread on the table, you should, or the bread outside. And what I really like about it, I love the social mission. I think that's fantastic, their dedication to Lancaster. But I also, from a business standpoint, equally as important is they picked a niche that they could win at. They decided to go all organic, and they decided to make products that there really isn't like this gigantic competitor that will make it impossible to succeed. And that's what entrepreneurship is. You know, looking at where the opportunities are and adding to that social responsibility. That's what works. I think you have to start with the opportunity first. And the social responsibility is part of your DNA, you'll add it, but if the business doesn't work, this whole thing doesn't work. So I thank you for your time. I'm staying till about 3. If someone wants to question me or talk to me, I would be glad to talk to you about anything you want. Thank you.
Jeff, on behalf of Community First Fund, I'd like to present you with a little reminder of your participation in the Friends of the Fund event today. We also want to thank you for the great work you're doing, for the inspiration you're providing, for providing a healthy future and stronger communities for so many people in low-income neighborhoods. We're proud to support your work, and we'll be making a contribution to support your work with Uplift Solutions, so thank you for being here today.